Normally, I go timestamps, do all that kind of stuff. But there was some interesting stuff that happened tonight. And it's funny because as the season progresses, there's certain storylines that I know people get tired of hearing about. So I'm going to go around it in a roundabout way here. Toronto beats Arizona. I was going to say Phoenix. Tobias Reeder with 2 assists is the top scorer for Arizona. For Toronto, Mitch Marner, another goal and 2 assists. Keep in mind, I never once dropped off this kid's bandwagon, and when they dropped into the 4th line, I'm like, seriously? Marlowe, 2 goals and 1 assist. Things are going well for Toronto. Matthews with a solid game as well. Another game after his return from injury. And it's an uglier score than you want as a Leafs fan. And certainly, there was an Arizona fan that asked me why Scott Wedgwood wasn't in the top 10 backups. This game kind of illustrates that. And why Arizona goaltending in general doesn't end up in the top 10 list. Toronto needed the win. They got it. They moved themselves back into a sole possession of second place in the division. And I think, good game for them. Good game overall. You don't want to allow 4 goals in any game, but when you score 7, it's acceptable. This game, rather than talk about individual scoring, for me, what happened with Vegas and LA tonight is the same. So I've been watching Vegas games, and here's what happens. Vegas allows the other team to score first, and then they win. It's been happening a lot. Vegas scores first, they win. Vegas is now unbeaten in regulation in their last 11. The issue is Tampa's lost 1 of their last 11. So the ultimate battle right now is which one of Tampa or Vegas is going to crack first. And when they met up against one another, it was a victory with 2 seconds left by Vegas. Not really that decisive game that I think we would have probably wanted to see. What it left us thinking was, man, if these guys played against each other in the Stanley Cup Finals, that'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? And it still would be. Marc-Andre Fleury with some sensational saves in overtime, and right before Vegas scored, I knew it was coming. There's just something in Vegas's game. They start swarming. It doesn't matter who's on the ice. It doesn't matter which line it is. When they have it in their mind that it's time to score, it happens. And it happened again tonight. And LA was the victim. Now, I'm going to jump around a little bit. There was something interesting happen with Calgary, where Backlund got a goal tonight. Timo Meier with a goal for San Jose. Good goaltending by Rittich. And good goaltending at the San Jose end of the ice as well. Rittich, though, stands out because as Monahan goes in overtime, Rittich is already celebrating. The puck didn't go in. They end up losing in a shootout. My concern was this. If you're on the San Jose bench, you look down and see some rookie celebrating a win, it might fire you up a little bit to put the puck behind him. He's a rookie. He'll learn. He had a very good game. They pointed out how good his stats have been. The only reason he wasn't in my top 10 backup video, he hasn't been in the league for very long. He hasn't played that many games. The beauty of being a goaltender as a rookie is when you're going through the NHL that first time, you're playing teams that first time, they probably don't have a book on you. They probably don't know your tendencies. They're probably not aware of where your weakness is. That second time through the NHL is very telling. It's like in baseball with pitchers. Pitchers may be able to get through the lineup that first time, but that second time can be tough if they're young. Because batters are going to be like, okay, he got me with that pitch the first time around, he's not getting me again. For goaltenders, they may go, hey, those saves you made on that last game, they were all down low. We got to start putting it high. Or he's really good on the glove side. Let's shoot blocker side. That kind of thing. Rittich may very well be benefiting from that right now. And absolutely the Flames can ride that for a while. And it does take some of the pressure off of Smith. It doesn't mean that Smith has to be in there for 65, 70 games. And he's not going to be able to do that. There's no way that Smith is going to be a 65, 70 game goaltender. That's why Eddie Lack is gone. They had to fix the problem. And my guess is they looked around the league at what might be available, and they didn't like their options. So they said, you know what, we'll give this kid a shot, and they brought up Rittich. And so far, it's been a good idea. Now, getting off of that, that was a shootout win as well. And I want to mention the other shootout game here, Boston. Backus with 2 goals. Boston gets 2 goals early on in the game. We did a review tonight, myself and Yvonne, of Doctor Who's finale for Peter Capaldi in the 2 episodes before. And I started that video as I started that Boston game. And it's funny because Boston scores the first 2 goals, and I'm kind of pumped about it. And I say during the video, but I can't say anything. And it's kind of become that's how it feels. So Boston goes into Washington and they lose for the 12th straight time against Washington. But it's in a shootout, and they played very well. It was a very good game for Boston. It was a great comeback for Washington. All in all, this looked like a series. Like, if this is a series preview, if these 2 teams somehow were to play each other in the playoffs, it's going to be awesome. I like that Boston got the point. I like that Washington got 2. Washington keeps themselves in the mix for first place in their division. And that was probably a poetic ending. Even though, as a Bruins fan, I would love to have seen them get the win. They didn't. And it's okay. But again, Boston with another really strong result. And there's a part of me that says, well, yeah, but you can't talk it up. When Charlie McAvoy makes a really good play, you can't talk that up either, because people don't want to hear it. And Danton Heinen had a good game, but they don't want to hear about that either. And it kind of gets difficult at times, because there are teams and players I cheer for. For instance, now, I'm going to say right off, when Corey Crawford's not in net for Chicago, it is remarkable how different Chicago looks. And it's not Forsberg. Yes, Forsberg takes the loss. Yes, Forsberg has abysmal stats at the NHL level. But the entire Blackhawks team looks different. Schmaltz with a goal for Chicago. But there was one line who performed for Vancouver, and all night Chicago couldn't stop them. Gagne, 2 goals and an assist. Vanek, 2 goals, 3 assists. And Brock Besser with 1 goal and 3 assists. And the assist that he had in the 3rd period was it was an absolute thing of beauty. You can pass it blind backwards to a guy who puts it in the net. That is absolutely gorgeous. So it's funny because we've talked a lot about his goal scoring. And tonight Besser showed his passing game. And it's damn good. And he is perfectly willing and capable of setting up his line mates and helping other people get goals. I've talked a lot about him as a sniper, and it's true. He's got a tremendous shot. He's got 21 goals now. But his assists can go up. And again, it comes back to the whole, well, people don't want to hear you talk about Besser because you talk about Besser all the time. But it's weird because, you know, Leafs fans talk a lot about Matthews, and Islanders fans are excited about Barzal. As a Canuck fan, it's hard not to be excited when you see Brock Besser put up 4 points, and he moves to more than a point a game. He moves into the league lead in the NHL for rookie points. He's on pace still for about 45 goals this year. It's really hard not to be excited. It is difficult not to be excited about Brock Besser right now. But I'll do my best. So the Canucks get the win. It's a win over a Chicago team that really needs Corey Crawford in the worst way. I can't recall the last time I saw Vancouver manhandle Chicago like that, and it's slightly embarrassing for Chicago. They desperately needed that win. As did Montreal in against a Tampa Bay team that made it look relatively easy. Montreal got the first goal, and then Tampa, like Vegas, came back and won the game. Palat with 2 assists. The similarity I see, and this is where I'm going to do things a little different, and I will get to the other game I haven't talked about yet, which is Florida and Philly. Neither of these teams allow an early goal to bother them. They don't allow a bad first period to rattle them. They're both coached exceedingly well. They can both roll 4 lines. They both have underrated blue lines. And they both have goaltenders right now that look like they could make a run at a Vezina. Fleury hasn't played enough to be in the Vezina conversation. But if he keeps playing the way he's played in his last few starts since coming back from injury, absolutely, Marc-Andre Fleury can get into the Vezina conversation. And how impressive is that? How impressive is it that Marc-Andre Fleury, for a first-year franchise, could be in the Vezina conversation? Jonathan Marchessault is starting to assert himself in Hart, maybe, If you're going to have a Hart candidate from Vegas, could it be him? And Vegas and Tampa both have multiple guys who could go for multiple awards. Whether it's the Hart, whether it's the Rocket Richard is highly unlikely for anybody from Vegas. But don't tell them that or they'll go out and get it. They both get stronger as the game goes along. These are easily the best two teams in the league right now. I held off with Vegas because they were playing a lot of bottom feeder teams and they weren't necessarily winning by a lot. But now that they're playing the better teams in the West, they're still putting up tremendous totals. And against the West, Vegas is absolutely deadly. Absolutely deadly. Now, in the flying under the radar part of things, Philly was that team a while ago. Now it's Florida. Florida's won a number of games in a row. Florida's been looking pretty solid. Bukestad with 2 assists, Couturier with a goal for Philly. But what I want to talk about with Florida is the announcer, when Huberdeau scored a goal, yelling, "Hoobie, doobie, do." I don't know where that comes from. I know it's Scooby Dooby Doo. I get it. Hoobie Dooby Doo. Dear Lord. It's cringeworthy. Absolutely cringeworthy to hear Hoobie Dooby Doo. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. Maybe he said it before and PTSD blocks me from hearing it. Maybe. But regardless of what you call him, and you can call him the Bugie Man, I guess, if you want, Bukestad. You're going to make up stupid names for everybody. I gotta say, Florida looks pretty good right now. And while Boston got a point tonight, and Boston still sits, now they're 20, 10, and 6, they got 46 points, and Florida's well behind that. Florida's letting it be known to the rest of the NHL right now with the continued wins they're putting up. Hey, we haven't given up. So as much as we like to throw dirt at Florida and bury them, let's unbury them for a second and discuss the fact that they've got a very good record in December. They've been playing very well lately. And while the attendance isn't there, it could be. If Florida continues on this kind of winning streak, I'm saying right now, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, that attendance will start going up in Florida dramatically if they can get above 500 and get into a playoff race again. Florida doesn't have a whole lot to cheer for. And with Luongo out and Reimer as the starter, it would have been completely understandable if Florida had thrown in the towel. I would have completely understood if Florida had said, you know, well, we're done. It would have been understandable if Reimer had a letdown after that. He hasn't. Florida hasn't. And while Florida had a 3-0 lead and cruised to a 3-2 win, hey, a win's a win. They won it in regulation. And for Philly, it's got to be really frustrating that Philly has played fantastic hockey for about a month. And yet right now, they are last in their division. And they may very well be staying there. Sort of like the Flames tonight. The Flames come out with a point in San Jose. Normally that would be a good result. But they fall a point further behind San Jose. It's another win they needed and they didn't get. San Jose with a comeback for that win too. So Calgary with the chance to win the game and they let it slip. It is going to be very difficult to make up that ground because Vegas isn't coming down to earth. The Kings are still getting points. And San Jose is a team that just put the whooping on you in a shootout. And I hate shootouts being used as a way to get that second point, but it worked for San Jose tonight. And Anaheim's getting better. Despite the result against these guys last night, Anaheim is getting better. So for the Flames, it's not over because you're not even to the midway mark of the season, but this would be a really good time for the GM to make a move to help fix things. There are some issues in Calgary. They're not major issues. They're not getting blown out. But there's just something that's not quite as good, and it's not keeping them in that playoff spot, and it's leaving them further and further away from that goal. And Edmonton's getting better too. So not only are they watching as teams like San Jose, LA, and Vegas pull further ahead of them, but teams behind them are getting it together. I don't expect Vancouver to get it together per se, but they are 1 game below 500 right now, and they can get back into it. Because when you look at these numbers, a properly utilized Brock Besser can make everybody else better. And the other thing that stood out for me in the Canucks game tonight is that's the best game that Sam Gagner has played as a member of the Vancouver Canucks. That's the Sam Gagner that the Columbus Blue Jackets had last year. That's the one that they've signed as a free agent for 3 years. That's the guy they signed. I'm perfectly fine with teams that we know need a Rasmus Dahlin or Svechnikov. I'm perfectly fine with them winning. Because, again, the lottery is not a guarantee. If it was, then Colorado would have won the lottery. They would have had Easier. Vancouver would have been second. They would have got Nolan Patrick. Arizona would have got Heiskanen. Didn't work out that way. So, even if you're out of the playoffs, keep playing. Keep winning. Winning is good. It's always good. Even if you're a team out of the playoffs, win some games. Learn how to win together as a team, so that going into the next season, those young guys know how to win together as a team. And then you're supplementing them with other players, sure, but in the meantime, they're learning to win now. Playoffs would be great, but only 16 out of 31 teams makes the playoffs. Should those other 15 really just tear everything apart? Should half the league in the NHL really be looking at and saying, well, we didn't make the playoffs, we should just tear it down? That's insanity. I could understand when it was 16 out of 21. I could understand when it was 16 out of 24. But now that we're up to 31, just because you're not going to make the playoffs doesn't mean you have to tear it apart. And I really don't see Vancouver being in that position. Does Vanek get sent out as a rental at the deadline? Yep, probably. And with nights like tonight, he's going to command a pretty solid return. It's a big night for him and for that line. And that line is why they won. That line combined with the fact that with Forsberg in net, for whatever reason, Chicago was a completely different team. And not in a good way. So there you go. There's my reaction to the 7 games from tonight. Let me know which result surprised you guys the most, which one surprised you the least, and what you thought of tonight's games. Thank you very much for watching. I did my best not to gloat over players that I like on teams I cheer for. I apologize if I failed in any way, but it's kind of hard not to be excited right now. The funny thing is, if you look at videos of mine from last year, I was kind of excited about Austin Matthews and the points he was putting up. Most importantly, the goals. When he posted that, his first game where he had 4 goals, I did a video just on that. On how that was the best first game I'd ever seen anybody play. So, I get it. I get it. But it's hard not to do a video about Brock right now. It's tough. Even though I talk about him all the time, it's really tough. Because it's fun to watch. So again, thank you very much for watching. Hope your team won, and if it didn't, they'll win next time. It is a very evenly matched league across the board. But if you're a Montreal fan, you might have some concerns right now. It does look like Montreal's falling out of the race again. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.